Well, good morning and welcome to the Grow Omaha Show. Glad that you have joined us this morning. I'm Jeff Beals from NAI NP Dodge Commercial Real Estate Company. We're also brought to you by D&M Roofing, the area's premier residential and commercial roofing contractor. You can find out more about them at dandmroofing.com. Well, it's now time to introduce my co-host, a man that I like to, for good reason, refer to as the legendary real estate deal maker, Trenton Magid.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Jeff Beals. It's good to be back.
Yeah, we missed you last week. Where in the United States or Earth were you?
We went to Savannah, Georgia, ladies and gentlemen, and it is a beautiful city.
I like Savannah a lot.
I went to school at Tulane in New Orleans, and Savannah's like a small New Orleans. It's a clean. I hate to say it, but it's a clean New Orleans, and you've got all the Spanish moss, which isn't really Spanish moss, I'm told. But you have all these parks, and you've
Spanish
got
moss.
these war heroes, and you've got these legendary people that are buried in their namesake parks.
And great restaurants.
Excellent restaurants. A lot of grits. We need more grits here in Omaha. I know that Mouth of the South, Greg Cutchall does a good job with shrimp and grits at Mouth of the South, but we need more grits here.
You know, interior build-out is underway on that new Mouth of the South that'll be next to Jams in the old market.
That'll be great.
Yeah, so that whole area is really coming back to life because you'll have Mouth of the South there in the old Chicago space next to Jams is what I should have said. And then just down the street from that, the Moxie by Marriott Hotel is under construction.
Going up, a lot of steel.
And I hear there might be something in the space between that at some point in time. So we'll find out more about that as time goes on. Hey, we want to bring on our colleague, Gabrielle Estivo from NAI NP Dodge, who's going to be joining us today. Gabby, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good to have you back on the show. So you tell everyone what you kind of focus on when it comes to commercial real estate brokerage.
So I've entered my third year officially into the industry. And, right now, just a generalist. Haven't specialized in any direct field, but it's been really great to get into the market and learn a whole lot more since I started. I think the first time I came on here and probably the last was my first 2 months in. So
You were brand new.
Yep.
Yeah.
It seems like you've been with us at least 5 years. In talent and experience and things you're involved in. We do projects together, and you're a big part of our office, and we appreciate that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
good to be here.
Well, Gabby, it's going to be great having you on the show, and everyone, you're going to enjoy getting to know her just like we enjoy working with her. But before we get into that, a couple things we want to keep in mind. Number one, if you haven't signed up for Fast Cash at Nebraska Crossing, you want to make sure you do that with haste because the holiday season is coming. And when you have a Fast Cash app, you can get 15% cash back on all of your purchases at Nebraska Crossing, regardless of what store you make the purchase. You can use your 15% cash back at any of the other 70 retailers in the area. And this is the mall that has many retailers that appear only in one place in the entire state of Nebraska. And as we've been teasing for a while, we are going to soon announce a couple of big national ones. And I know we have a couple of Grow Omaha listeners that say, hey, we're sick of you saying that all the time because we want to hear what those are. We want those announced. Hey, we're excited to announce them too, but we can't do it till we get the green light. But trust me, they're coming and you're going to like them. In fact, one of them in particular is going to cause you to go, whoa, that's a cool one. It might even involve a little bit of new construction. Yeah. So
thanks, Rod and Johanna.
At any rate, get your Fast Cash at Nebraska Crossing app, and you'll thank us for recommending that you do that. Hey, one other piece of housekeeping that's very, very important. The anticipated and highly loved Brad Williams monthly construction update on Grow Omaha came out earlier this week. You can find it either on growomaha.com. If you go to growomaha.com, just click on the shows tab, go down and it'll say construction update. Click on that, or just go to the Grow Omaha YouTube channel and you'll find the construction update there as well.
You can see Brad Williams' studio too. He's got quite the studio set up.
That was kind of, and I'll be honest, all the years we've known and worked with Brad Williams, that's the first time I've caught a glimpse of Brad Williams' headquarters.
Yeah, it's definitely a real place, quite the lair.
Well, let's go into our news of the week. which is brought to you by Eagle Mortgage, eaglemortgagecompany.com. They know mortgages. They're located at 114th and Davenport, and from that location, over the past 30 years, they've been doing a bang-up job with mortgages. So if you're buying your first house, you're buying another house, you want to refinance a loan that you currently have, you could do a lot worse than call Holly and her team at Eagle Mortgage. Conventional, FHA, VA, they do all of those, and they really work with their clients, coaching them to make sure that they understand what they're getting into, and really good about getting you that pre-approval letter that you can arm yourself with before you go out into the house hunting rat race.
It's amazing the amount of residential activity that's out there. Everybody's talking about the market's at a high, but I have a lot of friends. We have a lot of friends that have bought houses and sold houses in this environment, and the market's certainly at a high, but people are excited about getting houses.
And everyone's saying this year it's still going to stay really busy during the holidays and the winter months. But even this year, like usual, it'll probably slow down a little. So I think that's important to know. So if some of you have been intimidated by this crazy hot market, and I understand how you might be, maybe November, December, January actually might be the good time for you to do something, because while it'll still be really robust, there won't be quite as much competitive pressure for houses. So if you've been thinking about it, even though it's kind of a non-traditional time, you might want to call Eagle Mortgage and certainly an NP Dodge residential realtor to see if you can get started. All right, let's go into the news this week. Guys, big story. On Monday, University of Nebraska Medical Center released what they call a final rendering of their new admin tower. This thing is a monster. It's going to be, the rendering is right about 16 stories tall. Now that does include what appears to be a couple of ground level or second floor parking underneath the main part of the building, 350,000 square feet. It would be on the west side of Saddle Creek at Farnham, but it would be connected to the main campus with a huge, very wide bridge that would actually have a grassy lawn and landscaping on it. This thing will be a landmark on the campus.
It'll go over Saddle Creek?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it'll be a big skywalk, basically.
Very wide skywalk, outdoor skywalk.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like an outdoor plaza. So basically, you could say the patio
green space.
Yeah, the way I would describe it, the patio and the lawn will be suspended over Saddle Creek Road.
That's pretty cool.
And so think about the visual. If you're driving, say, from the north of Dodge, southbound on Saddle Creek Road, you see the building, you go under that cool old historic bridge under Dodge, and then all of a sudden it's just going to be
Farnham Street,
intimidating looking.
So south of Farnham.
Yeah, so southwest of Farnham and Saddle Creek Road. Now, guys, this does not include the next project. Now, this is in addition to the next project.
It's another few $1 billion.
So when you think about it, I know we've talked about it before, but when you think about what all of this means for that entire part of town, the spin-off real estate development, we already know that investors are just combing that area looking for the right lot, either for a residential conversion or maybe something that they could build something from the ground up.
No, we are the skyline changing events, and it's hard to stand out on that Nebraska Medicine campus, and this is doing it.
Well, and if you think about it, the Med Center already is kind of like its own downtown skyline. Nothing super tall on it because you have all those helicopters coming and going, but it's nonetheless a skyline, so to speak. All right, we're going to talk next about a retail area planned for Heartwood Preserve. Heartwood Preserve is the old Boys Town West farm, southwest of 144th and Dodge. Right on the corner is a 5-story office building for Union Bank, which is under construction and has topped out, by the way. But just to the south of that, plans call for a retail development that will ultimately have about 40,000 square feet. This is set to be possibly open as early as next year, but dirt work is now underway on that project.
Yeah, real proud of our friends Chip James and the group at Lockwood Development. And this will be heavy on restaurants. There'll be some retail and, probably 1- and 2-story type stuff. But right across from the Boys Town Post Office And they can bring in some national restaurants, which is going to be really sharp.
Yeah, that is going to be I'll be very curious to see what they get there. Any idea when we might find out?
I think one is a high-end Mexican restaurant, I believe, and I can't say the name, and I don't remember the name, which is probably good because I wasn't
Local or national?
National.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, that just there are a lot of Grow Omaha listeners right now that are just like scouring the internet, doing Google searches based on what you just said, and by now, probably 300 or 400 have already isolated 5 potential candidates.
Good.
So we'll
That's
find
what
out.
the
for
show's
sure.
all about, right?
That is what the show is all about. All right, let's see what's next on the docket. We have townhomes coming to Avenue 1. They're going to be called Sundance Townhomes at Avenue 1. And this is Avenue 1's the big development at 192nd and West Dodge.
A long time coming.
Yeah, both sides of 192nd. At any rate, these townhomes, 251 units. It'll be a $65 million project led by a big developer called Timberland Partners. It'll feature 21 buildings altogether, ranging from 8 to 16 units per building, and it'll have the nice clubhouse and swimming pool. So it's going to be really interesting to see that mixture of uses out there in that project.
It'll be interesting to see what retail supplements and complements this residential development. And we all remember when the car dealerships, when Village Point Auto Row, whatever you want to call it out there on the north side was coming, and Tal Anderson, we've talked about how he had the vision for an unbelievable guy, and now we're you could call this pioneering again, but it's not that far out.
No, I mean when you think about how fast everything grows, it'll be Midtown before you know it. So then construction continues on the Juniper Rose at Deer Creek project. This is 120th and Ida Street. That's getting up there when you talk about Ida Street. The complex will include 17 buildings, 92 total units. These are well underway, but these are 3-story skinny townhomes. They kind of remind me of the Rose at Soma.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
On the south side of the old market.
Yeah.
So they'll have, and a lot of them are really coming along.
They're not trackside, though.
They are not trackside.
Railroad trackside.
There is no Union Pacific main line snuggling up against them, but the first floor will be garage. Second floor is the kitchen and the living room, and the third floor would be the bedrooms and a bathroom and a laundry.
Are there rooftop decks too?
I don't know.
That would make it like Rose of Soma.
Yeah, I don't know. But that is one of the projects mentioned and included on the Brad Williams October construction update. So if you go to the aforementioned video, you'll see that and a few others. So Gabby, you and I were talking before the show. There's a development called the Alltech Business Park, and this is 144th and F Street. It's been around for a long time. You know, if you drive by it, there's a AAA building. There's a whole bunch of like little some buildings with small offices in them and all that. But there's always been this one lot in the middle. And
big lot. I just looked at it.
Huge, yeah. So there's these plans to fill this long vacant lot. Now, it's not another office building. It's not a flex building. It's not another AAA call center. Apartments. So what would be, I mean, how interesting is that to have an apartment complex proposed for the middle of an industrial park?
You know, I'd say it's very unique, but clearly there's a demand going on, around our market, whether it's West or Midtown, with UNMC, for apartments to continue to be built because we are building everywhere. But on top of that, I feel like because you've got offices and flex space, you might even create a demand for people who work in those areas to be close by, especially the young professional that, is just starting in the workforce. So might be kind of a unique spot and good location to be.
You've got a lot of amenities around there as well, 144th and F Street. And interestingly, even in La Vista, over in Harrison Hills, there's 80 or 90 apartments approved to go next to that Streck Laboratories warehouse over there, over by Restaurant Depot, and that was zoned industrial as well. And so, you've got to work on the zoning when you put residential uses in commercial zoned areas. But when it comes to the food chain of prices, what they're paying for apartment ground now, which used to be less than commercial or industrial prices, Jeff, those prices have been going up. So it probably makes good sense for the developer.
I gotta say, I like this proposal. I think it's a great idea because that parcel's been sitting there for about 20 years, according to the planning board documents. And now, of course, this is not approved yet. It goes before the planning board this week. But if approved, it would be 176 units, nice size, a lot of 3-story buildings. But you guys, one of the things that has kept Omaha, there have been many, but one of the things that has kept Omaha strong in the city limits vis-a-vis a lot of other major cities is because we're very good at developing things that cause people to come back into the city. I love stuff like this because we're going to outgrow our developable land in Douglas County very, very soon. And stuff like this is what keeps the city big, keeps the city strong. So I hope it passes.
Well, I like the density. I like the height in some of these apartment complexes too.
Agreed. All right. Well, there is your news of the week, which is brought to you by Eagle Mortgage, eaglemortgagecompany.com. When we come back, we're going to talk about the whole idea that you can have houses printed by 3D printers. And in fact, there's an entire neighborhood in Austin, Texas, consisting of 3D printed houses. Could something like that be coming to Omaha? We're also going to be talking about, speaking of Omaha, record low unemployment in our state and in our city. And get a load of this. Usually the unemployment in Nebraska is lower than a large city like Omaha. Not right now. Unemployment in Omaha is actually lower than the overall state, which is a big surprise. A lot to come up. You don't want to miss any of it. You're listening to Jeff Beals, Trenton Magid, and Gabby Estivo from NAI NP Dodge Commercial Real Estate. We are brought to you by D&M Roofing, and we will be back right after this on News Radio 1110 KFAB. And welcome back to the show. Jeff Beals and Trenton Magid at your service. We represent NAI NP Dodge Commercial Real Estate Company. We also have our colleague Gabrielle Estivo with us, one of our commercial brokers at the company. Hey, we at Grow Omaha strongly recommend that you consider D&M Roofing if you have to do any work on your home roof, your office roof, any sort of warehouse or commercial building. You won't find a better roofing contractor than D&M Roofing. You know Eric Obremt, the owner there. He comes on the show periodically over the course of each year. Great guy. More importantly, he leads a team of people who do outstanding work. Hey, and one other thing. I know a lot of you are people who make decisions for commercial buildings. You either own the building or you're the property manager or an executive or owner of a company inside one of those buildings. Whatever the case may be, their preventative maintenance program at D&M Roofing can save businesses an awful lot of money. So you can get a hold of them at the letter D, the word and, the letter M Roofing, D&M Roofing.com. All right, Trenton and Gabby, I've got something kind of fun I want to talk about here today. And it's looking at home construction from a different angle. And as you know, CoStar is kind enough to give us a lot of news items that we talk about when it comes to the national real estate scene. And so let me read something from this week's Grow Omaha newsletter CoStar report, and then I want to get your opinions on whether this makes sense for Omaha. Okay, here goes. A unique home construction startup company known as Icon is partnering with Lennar Corp, which is a giant Florida-based home builder, to develop the largest 3D printed neighborhood in the world. That's right. The foundations and walls of these houses will be created using a gigantic 3D printer. Now, the roof, the HVAC, the finish work, those are all built using traditional tools and methods. But the walls and the foundation, 3D printer. This is going to kick off in 2022 in an undisclosed part of Austin, Texas. Now, get a load of this. Icon developed its own construction printer called the Vulcan 3D that uses a mix of concrete, plasticizer, aluminum, calcium, silicates, and water as a filament, or what you could call ink, to 3D print the houses. So this is the part that you'll find fascinating. The filament flows out of the printer like thick concrete-like ribbons stacked on top of each other. And then this can cut costs 20 to 30% for home building. Does this Is this coming to Omaha? Does this make sense to have 3D printed houses in Omaha?
Gabby?
It's definitely unique. I mean, they announced, gosh, how many years ago that they make organs out of 3D printers. So, I mean, if that type of a concept is going in someone's body, I feel like a house could be somewhat trustworthy. Coming from Tornado Alley in Kansas, that naturally, kind of freaks me out. But if they're doing it in Texas, maybe they've got something, up their sleeve that we don't know about. As far as coming to Omaha, we tend to follow the trends, but it's nice because at least we're not the guinea pigs in the process. So, I think there could be a demand eventually, especially with how this housing market is going and the cost of construction right now, especially with materials and the delays. But it'll be interesting to see how it
My
goes.
prediction is this 3D printed neighborhood will be a lot more successful than a 2D printed neighborhood.
It's a good point. The 2D might leave you a little cold or hot at certain
It'll be
times.
like Flat Stanley or whatever.
I got a 2D house.
And could you imagine like having to replace the cartridge? Like where does one go?
Damn it! I got to run to Target or Walmart in the middle of the night to get a new ink cartridge.
Could you and
size of a
how big is
concrete
this?
truck.
How big is the slurry printer?
All I know is, guys, actually, they'll think about it. Okay, so if this thing is laying down this weird mix of ink that has concrete and aluminum and blah, 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 blah in it, the walls of this house are probably solid as can be. I mean, if
How long does it take to cure? Concrete takes a long time to cure.
well, they say the Hoover Dam is still curing, so maybe like 100 years from now, your house is still curing. I don't know.
It'll be very. I don't think I want to live in the first 3D printed neighborhood.
I'd consider buying one. All right. Unemployment rates keep breaking records in Nebraska. The Cornhusker State continues to have the nation's lowest unemployment rate. Get a load of this. In the state of Nebraska, September unemployment, 2%. That was not only the lowest in the country, again, just as it was in August, but it was also the lowest in Nebraska state history. And now this is what I think is even shocking. Omaha, a city of 500,000 people in a metro area of 1 million people, has an unemployment rate of only 1.7%. Major cities never have unemployment rates like that. I mean, and usually your state unemployment rate will be lower than your large city unemployment rate. Like Lincoln, theirs is even lower than Omaha's. I mean, it's insane how crazy this is getting. We need robots, people.
I think that it's a tough thing. I don't think it's anything to brag about, but at the same time, it should be a call for people to come to Nebraska and get jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And if we need employees, and yeah, it's competitive. The wages are up, the salaries are up, and come check out Nebraska. And the word gets around, and if someone's looking for a job, come check us out.
Anecdotally, we don't have any proof for this yet, but anecdotally, since the beginning or middle of 2020, I just know the population growth here has increased because of a lot of little pieces of evidence we're getting. One,
License plates?
Yeah, that.
Traffic.
Yeah,
It's
traffic.
Crazy.
To drive around and look at the construction of homes and apartments. And four, a couple people that I know who are involved in owning apartments or managing apartments, I've talked to several of them over the last year and have said, okay, what are you finding? What are you seeing? And they're saying a lot of new residents from state of California, state of Washington, state of New Jersey, state of Illinois, places like that, places where they've had issues that are worse than our issues, or they have issues that don't necessarily exist here, and has compelled a lot of people to seek out life here. And but nevertheless, we still have even though we're getting new people, we still have only a 1.7% unemployment rate. So we'll see.
Through just, office prospects in general and the leasing side of things, there's been a lot of demand downtown in one of my office spaces I have available where I've noticed a lot of remote workers are coming, and the interesting thing is most of them are actually not remote from Omaha. Like one was his company's in Utah, but he's here. Another one was somewhere in California. And it's, the choice of, hey, I don't want to live where the cost is so high, I also enjoy the Midwest, and it's a great place to raise a family. So it's so interesting to see that they plan, years in advance to stay with this company, but, maybe travel once or twice to actually physically go in person. So I think that trend too, as companies decide what they're really going to be doing with their employees moving forward, is also going to play a key role.
So are those people looking for office space in Omaha to work? So they're working in an office space remotely in another city from Omaha to work for a company in another city?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, the disruption of 2020 in a lot of ways kind of feels a little bit weird to say it, but I think it's going to be good for Omaha.
Well, but the other thing when we talk about it that we're growing, Jeff, I think because of COVID, there's more traffic, there's more people at restaurants, everything else. So we experienced that when some of us that ventured out and took our precautions we needed to take. But yeah, the city's growing, but at the same time, people are more active.
Good point. Yeah, that alone will bring some more traffic out to these places that we mentioned. All right, with that, we're going to take our middle of the show break. When we come back, we're going to have a lot more to talk about, including some new construction as part of the Commercial Real Estate Development Spotlight by Noddle Companies, many other things. You're listening to Jeff Beals, Trenton Magid, and Gabby Estivo on News Radio 1110 KFAB. And welcome back to the show. Jeff Beals, Trenton Magid, Gabrielle Estivo from NAI NP Dodge, sitting in a row, ready to talk with you about all sorts of Omaha growth and development things. We're also brought to you by D&M Roofing. And right now, you've been waiting for it. It is the Commercial Real Estate Development Spotlight, brought to you by Noddle Companies. Noddle Companies is a full-service real estate developer. They're based here in Omaha, run by Jay Noddle and a great team of professionals. And these guys build projects all over the United States, but a lot of their projects are right here in the metro area. Things like Exarban Village, the Builders District, River's Edge, and one of those projects is Steel Ridge. Trenton, where is Steel Ridge?
Steel Ridge is at Interstate 80 and Highway 370, both the north side with Steel Ridge, and there's Steel Ridge South on the south side.
Well, and we have some news this week about a project in Steel Ridge. Footings and foundations are now in place for an H&H Chevrolet dealership on the far north part of the Steel Ridge development, as Trenton said, I-8370. This dealership will have 65,000 square feet of indoor space on 12 acres. Opening is planned for January of 23, but construction is well underway now. You may have noticed it if you drive by on Interstate 80. But get this, opening at the same time will be an 8-acre processing center for all 6 vehicle franchises at the Sterling Ridge development.
Absolutely, and led by Steve Hinchcliffe and Jeff Hinchcliffe. They run a great operation. They have all the Onyx brands, BMW and Range Rover and Jaguar and Mini, just to name a few, and they run a great operation. So this would be a big addition to that Steel Ridge area.
And that is your Commercial Real Estate Development Spotlight, brought to you by Noddle Companies. You can find them online at noddlecompanies.com. Hey, last week we told you about the sale of the Entrado building campus. Now, Entrado is the company that we used to know as West Corporation, and we told you how the 2 buildings were sold to Lockwood Development, which is the same Omaha real estate development company that's doing Sterling Ridge, involved in Crossroads and other projects. But Entrado reached out to me and they said, hey, we appreciated you mentioning that. Will you tell people, though, that we're not leaving? They wanted people to know that even though they've sold the buildings, they will stay as a tenant in at least one of those buildings. And I have a message that says, quote, Entrado has deep roots in the community and plans to continue working from the Miracle Hills campus, even though the buildings are sold, and they remain a very big part of the Omaha business environment. So we have Gabby Estivo with us. She's one of our brokers at NAI NP Dodge. And Gabby, I wanted to ask you about one of your listings in particular because it's very high profile. When I drive by 47th and Dodge, I see that old Varsity Sports Bar there. You have that listed
49th and Dodge, isn't it?
Oh, did I say
49th.
I'm sorry, 49th and Dodge. You have that listed for lease, right?
Yes. Yep. It's the former Varsity Sports Bar space. It's about 4,700 square feet. There's office space up above as well. Most of that is leased up, just a few available. But it's kind of unique. It does have a HUD system in place. Most of the equipment has been removed, but it's bare bones of a restaurant. Varsity was in there for many, many years, and it's definitely right off the street, great visibility off of a huge corridor of Omaha. But yeah, options to take it over as restaurant space or potentially split it up into office or retail too, depending on the deal. So it is available, and let me know if anyone needs
Restaurants
it.
are looking for space, believe it or not. Even with labor shortage and everything, people want restaurant space.
Yep.
Well, that's kind of a lively corner because right to the east of it, you have the CVS pharmacy. To the southeast of it, you have a mixed-use building with some ground floor stuff. To the south of it, you have that Hilltop building, which has a bunch of uses. There's an Orbit stop right there. So I wouldn't be shocked if that doesn't end up being a restaurant again. I mean, especially given the fact that you have the restaurant equipment.
Yeah. There's definitely been, restaurant users out and about looking. So,
well, we are going to take our final break of the show. And when we come back, it means it's time for the
Turner Construction and Lightning Round.
That's right. And Trenton said, and the sheer excitement. But as Trenton said earlier, lots of restaurants. I'm looking at the Turner Construction Lightning Round docket before me. I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 restaurant or food related items. So stay with us. You don't want to miss any of this. This is the time for all you foodies to shine. The lightning round is coming up after this. You're listening to Grow Omaha, brought to you by D&M Roofing and NAINP Dodge on News Radio 1110 KFAB. And welcome back to the show, Grow Omaha, News Radio 1110 KFAB. And this is the moment you've been waiting for, the lightning round, brought to you by Turner Construction. Yes. Turner Construction is one of the largest construction companies in the world, but that doesn't mean that they don't do a great job for your smallish or medium-sized project as well. They have an office here in Omaha. It is growing. It is expanding. If you drive around town, you will see that Turner Construction logo around a lot of big and little construction sites. Now, if we're talking big, you can acknowledge the fact that Turner Construction is doing the Sarpy County data center.
They do hospitals. They do all kinds of big national and international projects.
We love them. So Turner Construction, we're grateful to have them as the entity that makes all of this lightning round stuff that you love so much possible. So let's get into it. Trenton Magid, Gabby Estivo, Sebastian's Southern Crab, east of the West Roads Clock Tower Village, is coming soon. It was originally going to open late summer, but for the same reasons, a lot of restaurants have been having to work a lot harder these days. It's going to be delayed. Now we're looking from their Facebook page. It appears closer to the holidays, but still coming. This is a new concept, a lot of Southern-style seafood. Trenton, you spent your college years in New Orleans, so you hear something like Southern Crab, you got to be happy.
Yeah, no, it'd definitely be interesting, and I like, Mouth of the South has great seafood there as well. I've always been a fan of Charlie's on the Lake, and we'll see how this does.
Hey, before we go any further, I have to give a shout out to Chris Corey. He is the managing partner of Arbor Creative, which does all of our website and video stuff for Grow Omaha. Last night, he made a cocktail for me when I stopped by his house. It was an old-fashioned with maple syrup and apple cider.
That sounds good.
Holy cow! I'm gonna be lobbying him for the recipe.
Did you just have one?
2. I intended not to have any, but I
don't want to insult your host.
I've ended up leaving his house with 2 cocktails. So, all right, Starbucks plans to build at 42nd and L. I think that's a good sign for South O that you're getting Starbucks putting in a freestanding drive-through restaurant at 42nd and L. Just shows you that there's more and more purchasing power in South O all the time.
All those high school students that are going to go to the new campus on
the Buena Vista High School,
52nd, 54th, and L.
But yeah, this will actually be on the northeast corner of that interchange. Trenton, you're responsible for this in a lot of ways, but the Little King coming soon sign is now posted on the dead gas station at 86 and Dodge. This is right where Dodge and Cass Street split apart.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with all my extra time because I had that banner up there because we're just pending closing. And I had them take the banner down because will be a freestanding Little King, and it'll be exciting.
Now, do they have to tear down that building or will they retrofit?
It'll be torn down.
Okay, so it'll be a whole new building there.
Absolutely.
So basically what you're telling us is even though the deal has been done a while, because your banner was up there and it's so high traffic, people kept calling?
Probably 3 times a week.
That's funny. Okay. All right. New restaurant at 88th and Maple. It's called Everett's. Stacy Winters mentioned it last week on the show, said it was one of his best places for French fries. I went up there. I was doing my Grow Omaha tour. I wanted to drive by and see it. Didn't have time to try it yet. I'll do that within the next couple weeks. But I wanted to mention one thing. If that caught your ear last week and you decide to go up there, have your eyes wide open. The signage is very, very small. I don't know. Maybe they're going to add some other signage, but I literally drove by it twice. And then all of a sudden I realized, wait a minute. And then I could see it's kind of like in a long building that looks like a strip that's kind of perpendicular to the street. Gabby, you're a coffee fan, aren't you?
I am. Yes.
All right. Hardy Coffee opens a drive-through coffee shop at 144th and Meadows Parkway. This is what used to be the drive-through of a bank. Meadows Parkway and 144th is a little bit north of the Sapp Brothers travel stop. So that's there. And then I want to get your opinion on this, you guys. The old Flatiron Space, which was a very elegant restaurant, been vacant for a while. We've got a new tenant going in there. It's going to be Dirty Birds. This is the Nashville-style chicken restaurant that is in the Switch Food Hall in the Blackstone District. I'm going to call myself surprised. I figured it would be another restaurant like what was in there.
Yeah, I would say just from having Dirty Birds in the food hall, it's delicious. I mean, people were going to the food hall at first just to try that, and obviously there's a lot of other delicious stuff there too, but I could see a demand for it here. From
what I can tell, I think it's going to be a second location, though.
Yeah. So I'm one of those people that don't get Chick-fil-A. I don't understand why people line up for this stuff, and I love Raising Cane's. And Dirty Birds, obviously, is especially chicken sandwiches and chicken dishes. I don't know how wide their menu is at the Switch, but this is a pretty big space for them. And I'm wondering if they're going to expand their menu.
It's like 1,800 feet, actually. So it's nice size. And at the Switch, they just have a little counter space. And then, of course, all those restaurants there share their seating. Switch is a great place to go for lunch, by the way. A lot of choices. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what that's like. But yeah, the place that we're used to having, fine wines and waiters and waitresses is now going to be
it's definitely different. And
Dirty Birds.
Unfortunately, they closed at the beginning of COVID, and I don't know. Let's see. Let's keep an open mind.
Allen's Home, a longtime furniture retailer at 78th and L, is closing its 44,000 square foot store to make way for a different business, which is purchasing that property. Allen's plans to open a much smaller store, like maybe a quarter the size of that space next spring, right about the time the current one will close. They have not yet announced where it is, but supposedly it'll be in that area. Sounds like they may be going a little more design-oriented and not as heavy on the furniture retailing, perhaps.
Yeah, they certainly provided alternatives for purchasing furniture, so it'll be interesting to see how they recreate themselves.
So the music is playing, which means that we are finito. Gabby, appreciate you joining us today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
That's our colleague, Gabby Estivo, or some people call her Gabrielle Estivo from NAI NP Dodge. I'm Jeff Beals.
And I'm Trenton Magid.
You've been listening to Grow Omaha, brought to you by D&M Roofing, NAI NP Dodge, and Turner Construction. We'll chat with you next week at 9 o'clock right here on News Radio 1110 KFAB. If you like this video, be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons. And remember, Grow Omaha is not just media. This is a mission. We are trying to build up Omaha and make it an even better place. We can only do that with your help. Share this video with your friends, neighbors, and family.